Hey, it's me, James, and I'm about to film the latest installment of my Oracle Outlook video reading series. It is Sunday evening, June the 15th, 2025, so I am going to be using the cards to look into the week ahead, starting June the 16th, 2025. If this is your first time here, I'd like to say welcome. Thank you for stopping by and checking out this video, and perhaps checking other video content on the channel. And if you're a returning viewer and visitor, I'd like to say welcome back, and thank you for continuing to support the work that goes into the channel. Okay, so we're going to get right into it. So once again, we're working with a double-decker reading. We're going to be working with two decks. On the left is a tarot deck. On the right is a Lenormand deck. So the tarot deck that we're going to be working with is my own creation. It is the Mitchell Tarot. This is the AI edition. It is my second tarot deck. And this was a collaboration with AI. And so I love how it turned out. I love it so much that it's going to become my standard deck when I am working with clients, when I do client readings. And so I thought, because I also do Lenormand readings for clients, I thought, well, I probably should have my own Lenormand deck. So I did that. And so I made the deck on the right, which is the Mitchell Lenormand Oracle. This is a recent addition, and I mean really recent. I've had it for maybe about a week or so. And I love, again, just like I love my tarot deck, I love how this turned out. So much so that it is actually creating what I'm calling for myself a Lenormand Renaissance. Because while I use Lenormand for my clients, I don't always turn to it for myself. And so I have gotten back into Lenormand big time as a result of making this deck. Okay, so the way it's going to work is that we're going to do just like we did last week. We're going to pull 3 tarot cards and 5 Lenormand cards. Okay, so let's go ahead and get the shuffling started. I'm going to start with Lenormand first. And so for these weekly general readings, I always ask for any information, any advice or guidance that is going to be most helpful and beneficial as we move through the upcoming week. And I love the deck. The deck has got that new deck slippery feel. Okay, we're going to go ahead now and cut the deck. I'm going to go ahead and fan the cards out. And I'm looking for 5 cards in the line that are getting my attention. So there's the 5 cards at the bottom. I'm going to take that Lenormand deck up, move it to the side. Now we're going to do the same thing with tarot. Shuffle the cards. Alright, now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go ahead and cut the cards. And I'm going to pull 3. There's the 3 cards. Start with the bottom and line these up. And I'm lining them up in the order that they were selected. So I'm going to do just as I did last week. Last week I read the tarot line first, and then I read the Lenormand line, because for me, I consider them to be two different styles of speaking, like they have two different distinct voices. And so that is my reasoning behind that. Okay, so we'll start with the card on the far left, opening the line up on the tarot line. And here we have the King of Water. So this is what's known as a court card or a person card. I tend to read it two ways. So I'm going to read it as a person first. So the King of Water would be someone in a position of authority, being a king. King as a theme can represent power, control, authority. Can also represent mastery, right? And so I went with the image of somebody who is a high-ranking person in the Navy, because of the idea about water. So I was going with a nautical thing here. And so this could be somebody who is very emotional, but has to also practice emotional control, right? Because again, remember now the theme of a king is about control. So this is somebody who has a great deal of emotional control, or, has mastered his emotions, right? This could be also somebody who is a healer. So this could imply that there may be some healing work going on if we look at it in the lens of the other aspect of the card and not about a person, but maybe adopting a particular approach to the week ahead, right? So it could be, starting the week off, there may be a need to get your feelings under control, your emotions under control, not letting your emotions get the better of you, right? That kind of thing. But it could also be, you are engaged in doing some very important healing work for yourself. Now, this could also be like you are a healer by trade. So this could be somebody who's a counselor, a therapist, a healer. This could also be somebody who is a benefactor to other people, and chiefly somebody who's a benefactor of the arts. Right? So it's not necessarily saying that you're an artistic or creative person in that regard. It's that you are a supporter of other people who are creative. Now, if this is about, relationship dynamics, then this card can be turning up to suggest questioning how deep are you willing to go in terms of a certain relationship or a commitment of some kind. Because I'm hearing in my head, the Bee Gees song, How Deep Is Your Love, right? I always think of that with the King of Water. Because in the more traditional pack, and when I say traditional, I'm talking about the RWS, that's Rider-Waite-Smith variation. The king is seated on a throne, and at the bottom of it is a slab that is above the water. Yeah, so he's not actually in the water. It's the throne is above the water, above the surface, right? So it's usually about questioning how deep are you willing to go with regard to a situation or experience. What's your level of commitment? So again, the King of Water could be implying as a person, somebody who is a healer, somebody who is a benefactor of the arts, maybe even somebody who's involved in law. But as an approach, it's asking us to consider our level of depth regarding a relationship dynamic or commitment, or doing some healing work, or getting our feelings under control. So that is King of Water. Now he's looking at, I'm going to pick the card back up. Now I'm reading with direction in mind, so now he's looking to the left, which is the past, right? If we go past, present, future, then he's looking to the past. So this again, if this is about healing, it would be doing some important healing work regarding a past issue, right? And something that has still got your attention to some degree because he's looking that way. So that's what I want to say about the King of Water. Moving on to the next card. Here in the middle we have the Ace of Earth. So I should say, I didn't say, in the more traditional packs, The King of Water would be the King of Cups, and this would be the Ace of Pentacles or coins. So here we again have the Ace of Earth. And this card, being an ace, could represent the potential for a new phase, chapter, or stage in one's life, the potential for the future. This card could be about being open to a new physical experience, a new material experience. So sometimes this card can suggest money coming in, or an opening regarding physical well-being, so an opportunity for healing, and that would make sense with the King of Water, right? Opportunity for healing on the physical level. Something having to do with your career. The suit of Earth is about career. So maybe some new opportunities are opening up regarding that. Maybe the potential within the career to be making more money. Now, it could also be that somebody is considering their own venture. Sometimes I see this. I have a deck called Tarot of the Lotus Circle, and in that depiction of the Ace of Coins, there's a grand opening of a store. The image has a storefront, and there's a big banner in the window that says grand opening, right? I'm seeing that image to lead me to say that maybe somebody is considering maybe a retail establishment or some kind of commercial venture, and then this card would be about maybe, getting started in that, or maybe getting the startup cost to that, or having somebody invest in that kind of situation. That's what I'm seeing with that. And it may have to do with healing per se. Like I'm seeing here the possibility of a spiritual center, a wellness center, healing center, that kind of thing. Now, this card could also turn up to suggest that there is a need to make some changes in your life, in your material existence, right? Some change in some area, or maybe you're thinking about all across the board. But this card would imply, starting small. So it could be like if you're wanting to change your life, don't overhaul everything all at once. It would suggest what small change are you willing to make? What small change would you be willing to make regarding your physical well-being? What small change would you be willing to make regarding your finances? What small change would you be willing to make regarding your career? You get the idea, right? But this card was saying too, change doesn't have to be big and grand and sweeping and epic. It could be, change in the little ways. Right, but it could also be like you're starting to look at life in terms of its value, right? The suit of Earth is all about the value system of money, yes, in one degree, in one regard, but also about your intangible value system or your core values. Those are intangibles, right? So it could be talking about that, like you're looking at that and starting to say, at this point in my life, especially if you're starting over, right? If this is about moving beyond the past, you're starting over or wanting to start fresh in the present moment. And it's about what do you value at this point in your life, at this stage in your life. So that's what I'm seeing with Ace of Earth. So now let's move on to the third card. And here we have the Ten of Water. So I love this. I'm filming this, as I said earlier in the video, on Sunday, June the 15th, 2025. It is Father's Day here in the United States, and I actually posted this card on my Instagram feed. I do what's called a daily divination, and I post a card and I riff on it every day. And so this was the card I posted today, and I was conscious about the choice of a card. Sometimes I do them randomly, where I just, kind of randomly pick a card from a deck. And other times I'm more deliberate in my choosing of the card. And so that today was that, because I love the image. Here we have a father holding his son's hand, right? So I posted this in honor of Father's Day. And so this card is known as the marriage and family card. And it suggests that, happy ending, especially being at the end of this line, it's a happy ending to a situation. Now I'm noticing two things here, two patterns. So we have water here on the left, and we have a water card on the right. So there's something about the ruling majority being about emotions, feelings, emotional undercurrents, things having to do with relationships or our ability to relate to other people, right? And with the king here, you know, kings can represent people in authority, men in particular. And so this could be a family dynamic here with the king of water and the ten of water. Sometimes what I see here is the idea of a reunion with the ten of water. So somebody may be experiencing a reunion with family. So that could be close family or extended family, but this idea of a reunion here. But it could also be moving through an experience where you come to the other side, and I'm going to hold the card back up because this is important. There's a rainbow on the card. So for me, the rainbow can symbolize weathering a storm and getting to the other side. Yeah. I always liken it to the idea of the song by Barry Manilow, I Made It Through the Rain, right? And then he talks about in the song, or sings it in the song, I should say, that it's not just about him, but he also sings about the other people who have made it through the rain, because he acknowledges that he's not the only one who's made it through, right? If you're familiar with the song. And then in this regard, then the ten of water can be a community, right? Community of people. And I'm just realizing that with the king of water being the benefactor, you know, somebody who's a healing professional, then this card can also be about a spiritual community, right? So there may be, again, with that idea I was talking about, you know, a healing center, spiritual center, that kind of thing. This would be about in service to the community. Now, if I go with the idea that this could be a counselor, then it may be somebody who may be considering the idea of investing in seeing a counselor. This would maybe somebody who leans towards marriage and family counseling. And maybe to kind of help reunite or reconnect family members. Right? Helping to heal maybe past issues. Now, with the Ten of Water, this is a more metaphysical or esoteric take on the card. So sometimes this card can turn up to suggest that there's more of a soul contract or soul agreement or karmic issue going on within a certain relationship dynamic or within a family dynamic, and it's being worked out. Right? You come to some understanding, some awareness, right, that there is something else going on a higher level at work. And I'm noticing here, and the reason why I'm mentioning that is because we have, with the numbers, we have an ace, which is number 1, and then we have the 10, which is a higher octave, if you will, of the 1, because it has a 0 attached to it. So this is about a transition, moving to a higher level of awareness, yeah, but it may be through the lens of relationships. Right, this is how you're going to get your learning in, right? It could be, that may be where the emotional mastery comes in, the emotional control, that kind of thing. So that's what I'm seeing with the top cards this week with tarot. So now let's take a look at Lenormand. Again, we're going to read from left to right. So starting with the card on the left on the bottom, here we have lilies. And so lilies is a card that can represent, with the insert, it has the insert of the King of Spades. So again, we have this idea about male energy, right? King. In playing cartomancy, for me, kings can represent men. And with the lilies, here we have a person who may be married. The lilies can be a marriage card. It can also be somebody who's older. This card can represent an elder or a senior. It can represent the elderly. Somebody who's more mature, right? And we have that same kind of thing going on in the image of the King of Water. I specifically wanted him to have white hair for that reason. Right? So now, lilies as the first card here could represent a situation that is old. That would be the past, right? It could be, and the question could be like, what is the wisdom that is to be gained from that experience, right? Because this card for me can represent wisdom gained by experience or from experience. But with the inset of the King of Spades, it can represent a person who is mature, seasoned, older, wiser, that kind of thing. So now, next card. Here we have the Whip. So now the Whip is a card that can represent discord. It can represent discord, anger, can represent frustration, something that's repetitive. This card can be about communication, but it would be about arguments, debates, things like that. Heated words being exchanged, right? And just like we had the King of Water starting things off, we have the same kind of energy here. So there may be some unresolved issue from the past, maybe involving a man, an older man in particular. But there's some discord here with the Whip card. And it could be like something that is repetitive. Like for me, I'm seeing this dynamic. It's like the past keeps repeating itself, right? History keeps repeating itself. That kind of dynamic is what I'm getting here. But now this card can also turn up to suggest sorting things out and working through things, because this is a workout card, right? So it could be, something showing up because it needs to be sorted out or worked through. Right? And it would make sense if I talked about anger and frustration. Those are all emotional components, right? And it would make sense if look at this. I mean, it's right underneath King of Water, and I talked about emotional control, emotional mastery, getting your feelings under control, that kind of thing. So that's what I'm seeing with the Whip. Middle card, this would be the heart of the matter. Here we have Tower. So now Tower is a card that can talk about isolation, withdrawal, being alone. So it could be as a result of discord. Somebody may be putting walls up, wanting to isolate themselves, especially if there's discord with another person, an older person. Now this card can also be about a company, corporation, or a firm. And with that in mind, then there could be, some sort of discord with somebody who's in a senior position, because this card can represent somebody with elevated status, somebody who holds office or high office, and there's some sort of discord with that person. Or it could represent training. This card is also about training, so training within a company, corporation, or firm. But at the start of it or head of it, or is it somebody who's in a senior position? Right, or somebody who may be initiating training within a company, corporation, or firm. Somebody who's got some level of experience regarding the training in and of itself. And I'm getting, sometimes with the Whip card, I get a sense of like discrimination, right? So it could be with the Tower about a company, corporation, or firm. There may be an institution of a policy, a rule, or regulation regarding discrimination. And with that, there's some training that goes along with that. So it could be like to correct an issue regarding discrimination. There's been a training program instituted. And then there's an idea of maybe somebody coming in to offer the wisdom of their experience in terms of the training process. Now, it could also be that there is a company, corporation, or firm who has a past history of discrimination. And it's coming to either to light or to the forefront, right? Something like that. But like I said, it could also be maybe something political, right? Regarding issues around discrimination. And then here we have with the King of Water and the Lilies, the possibility of maybe somebody who has maybe a long history of service. I'm seeing now this could be actually somebody in the Navy or something similar to that who holds a high position. And so it could either be like this person is being discriminated against, or the person is the cause of the discrimination, the impetus of the discrimination, the person who's at the heart of the discrimination, yeah? And then these cards would be about instituting something, initiating something to rectify that, right? So that's what I'm seeing with these first three cards here in the Lenormand line. Let's turn the next one over. And here we have letter. Okay, so this makes sense coming after Tower. If Tower is about office, it's about rules, regulations, policies, and this is about something that's going to become documented. Because letter is about written documentation. It's about all written forms of communication or messaging. So this could be paperwork, documentation. Tower would suggest making something official, but it's going to be through writing. It's going to be documented. Right now, it could also be somebody who's going to be in some sort of trouble, because this card can be about disciplinary action. And it may involve some sort of messaging. So there could be emails, text messages, things like that. But it would be something that is written. And again, it may involve somebody who is in a senior position within a company, corporation, or firm, or within a political landscape. And they may find themselves facing some sort of discipline or disciplinary action. And if that happens, it's a way of like making somebody an example. Because again, the Tower would be about something that becomes official. And then the last card, the ending, here we have Dog. Okay. And so Dog is a card that can represent a couple of things. It can represent somebody who is loyal, trustworthy. This could be about friendship, companionships, partnerships. It's also about help, support, and advice. So following letter, it could be about advice in writing. Somebody is asking for help, support, but it's in written form. I tend to see the Dog as a guide. So kind of, I find it interesting that it's on the opposite end of Lilies. So here we had somebody who's mature, somebody who's got experience, that kind of thing. So this could be somebody who's a guide. This could be somebody who's an advisor, consultant, that kind of thing. But it could also be, too, somebody may be asking through writing about being loyal. Or maybe somebody's level of trustworthiness is coming into question. Now it could also be about somebody who wants to become a partner. Remember now this is about partnership too. So this is about somebody who wants to be a partner in some kind of firm. And I did say, one of the things I did say was this card can be about law. So maybe in a legal sense, somebody who wants to become a partner in a firm. And then the bridge between these two cards is something having to do with paperwork, documentation. So again, that could be rules, regulations, policies. It could be, briefs or motions or affidavits. I'm trying to think of all the legal terms because I'm not a lawyer by trade. That is my disclaimer. Right? But if we go with the idea about a discrimination case, let's say, then it could be somebody who's being called in as an aid, as a support, as an advisor or consultant. And then the last thing I will say, if this is about a friendship, let's just say, because I made it about a number of things, but if we go back to the idea about this is about relationships and being able to relate to another person, this could be about working towards issues of regaining trust in a particular relationship. Right? Because then wit would be about falling out. Remember, this is about discord, a period of isolation, withdrawal, possibly separation, tower. And then the idea here, maybe somebody reaching out through written forms of communication, so that's text message, email, as a way to regain trust. So that's how I'm going to wrap up this week's Oracle Outlook. If you made it to this point in the video with me, thank you so much for giving me the gift of your time. I do appreciate it, and I never take it lightly. So this is James Himm Mitchell signing off. And I look forward to seeing you in this space for our next Oracle Outlook video reading together. So until then, I'm hoping that you're having a wonderful day. I hope that you have a wonderful week, and take care.